Sick of getting blisters? Stop slipping and just be comfortable with Pure Grip Socks Pro. Great fit, great comfort, lots of grip, and an even better price. Available now at puregripsocks.com.
Inside this box is a rare example of a pair of football boots that have failed successfully. Let me explain. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the brand new Puma King Ultimate, the replacement for what was easily one of the worst top-end boots money could buy in the King Platinum 21, where you can see the shaping of the Ultimate alone definitely draws inspiration to two models back in the OG Puma King Platinum that of course was famously worn for a couple of weeks by Neymar, the only time anybody cared about those football boots. I'm not sure if Neymar will ever wear this new King Ultimate model. I think it'd be really cool if he did, but definitely the controversial aspect of this new Puma King is that it no longer features a natural leather upper. Instead of kangaroo leather, commonly referred to as K-leather, the synthetic upper on the new King Ultimate is called K-Better. I too wish that was a joke. It's not all bad though. In fact, you might even say it's not bad at all, especially when you consider the $200 retail price for the King Ultimate, making it one of the least expensive top-end models currently on the market. And the reason why I say these have failed successfully is in comparison to the traditional Puma King rivals in the Nike Tiempo and the Adidas Copa Pure series, these really don't compete in that they aren't leather. The synthetic material feels great, but if you want that soft leather-like touch, these are not the football boots for you. However, what they do compare very closely to is a pair of football boots that have not been available for a very long time now. However, a lot of people really want them back. They're just not what you would expect a Puma King to feel like. Do you miss the feel of the Teijin synthetic upper of the Nike Mercurial Vapor 8 and 9? Well, you can get something pretty close in the form of the new King Ultimate. So if you're interested in learning why the new King Ultimate most closely compares to Mercurial Vapor models from 10 plus years ago, stick around, watch the entire video. We're going to cover all the details, including how they fit and feel on feet. And if you are interested in a pair for yourself, you can pick them up below their normal $200 retail price by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes by checking out the first link down below. And as always, guys, if you enjoy these brutally honest reviews, don't forget to drop a like on the video and make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2022-23. It would be incredibly easy to criticize Puma for transitioning the classic King model from leather to synthetic, although it's not necessarily the first time that they've done this. There have been SL variants of the Puma King in the past that have been full synthetic. However, being that this is now the only inline model, it is kind of controversial that they've made such a significant material switch. However, I think it's wrong to criticize them too hard given the fact that the Puma King name, while it is very historically significant to football boots in general, it's not particularly significant when you're talking about the modern day football boot offerings. Nobody is walking into a store or going online to buy a pair of Puma Kings because they want a great pair of leather football boots. The Puma King name, unfortunately, just does not bear the weight that it used to. With the original Puma King Platinum being a great example of that. Those were excellent football boots with a kangaroo leather upper that had been out for 2 years. Nobody cared about them whatsoever, and then Neymar wore them once, and all of a sudden, people were interested in the Puma King, at least for a short amount of time. With that said, I'm not sure that the branding and marketing behind this new King Ultimate is going to ultimately line up with how the boots actually fit and feel. Because like I said, it's not really ideal to compare these to the Nike Tiempo Legend 9 Elite or the Copa Pure Point 1. Those are both full leather football boots that fit and feel quite a bit different. And when you're talking about touch on the ball, leather just can't be replicated by synthetic, certainly a synthetic material this thin. But boy, do they ever feel like a classic pair of Teijin synthetic Mercurial Vapors. The all-new K-Better upper that you have here on the King Ultimate is certainly the best synthetic material we've seen out of the Puma brand in a very long time. However, if you were to compare it to a kangaroo leather football boot of a similar thickness, this being a relatively thin upper, again, kind of comparable to the original Puma King Platinum, it's just not as soft and it's not as pliable. With that said, it does have that super thin Teijin synthetic feel. And what's interesting about this is that they haven't actually added any padding to the internal liner, meaning that the touch on the ball is very barefoot-like, and really doesn't offer any of that softness, which is interesting given the fact that they are marketing this as an alternative to kangaroo leather, with of course the benefits of synthetic that we've heard many times before. It doesn't absorb any water and it's not going to overstretch as much. And honestly, I think given those characteristics, they really nailed the shape, again being very similar to that of the OG Puma King Platinum, which I think is pretty clear to see. And from a touch perspective, they went with this artificial leather grain finish on the surface, really adding no extra grip at all. There is some texturing scattered throughout, but it's so minor, again, you don't really notice it on the ball whatsoever. And what you do kind of end up experiencing with this football boot is, like I said, kind of that raw, thin synthetic feel that speed boots once upon a time, mainly in the Nike Mercurial series, used to have on offer. And just to be 100% clear, I do think the Tahitian synthetic found on this particular pair of Mercurial Vapor 8s is a little bit softer, is a little bit more premium, and it's certainly a little thinner than what's found here on the King Ultimate. However, like I mentioned earlier in the video, if you really miss this raw synthetic speed boot feel, given that speed boots in general have all gone towards textile and knit-based uppers, I think the Puma King Ultimate is something that's going to be right up your alley and is certainly the closest thing you can get right now to something that was last available at least 10 years ago. Moving to the area across the top of the foot, you're going to find a deep central lacing system with a one-piece upper construction, that central portion of the upper being filled in with this elasticated knit material, again almost identical to what we last saw on the original Puma King Ultimate. No issues with this whatsoever, plenty of adjustability, and you're able to get a nice, snug, secure fit with the laces tied tight when the boots are on your feet. At the rear, you're going to find what is a pretty traditional low-cut construction, although definitely modernized with kind of the elasticated knit bordering the edges, a little extension piece at the front, a little extension piece at the back. Didn't really have any issues with that whatsoever. An external plastic heel counter, again, kind of a return element from that OG King Platinum, although the tooling is all new for the Ultimate. And then internally, the heel liner is this really soft microfiber material, plenty of padding, really like that, feels comfortable against your heel and also grips your socks quite nicely. Then the insole, fully removable, also new for this particular model, at least in terms of the foam package, single layer of white foam, yellow foam insert in the heel and forefoot, relatively thin, super lightweight, but again, premium and what you'd expect on a top-end model with their nano grip lining material that you're also going to find on the Ultra Ultimate as well as the Future Ultimate, which is just a little bit grippy against your socks to prevent your foot from sliding around on the surface of the insole. Which brings us to the base of the King Ultimate, where you are going to find something that definitely trends towards the more traditional end of things in terms of just being really flexible with this particular sole plate tooling. I do like the external heel counter, although it is on the smaller side in terms of what we've seen from Puma in the past as well as from other brands. Still, it gets the job done and provides nice structure at the back. You get that little bit of added protection as well because it does bulge out along the sides. Nonetheless, this is, like I said, a much more flexible sole plate, which I guess doesn't necessarily relate it to something like a classic Mercurial or a speed boot in general, where you do typically expect to have that spring back effect. It's not that this feels flimsy, but it's certainly on the softer side compared to a lot of speed boot sole plates that are currently on offer. And then as far as the stud pattern is concerned, it is as straightforward as it gets. All conical studs in the forefoot as well as underneath your heel, which I think provides plenty of bite. They are marketing this as an FG-AG stud pattern, and for use on artificial grass in particular, given the shape of the studs and even the thickness of the sole plate along with the length of the studs, I do think this is safe to wear on artificial grass in terms of not providing too much grip, still having that freedom to twist and pivot. So as an FG-AG option, I think this is probably the best one currently on offer from the Puma brand, but in general, I definitely view this as more of a true FG stud pattern, best for use on natural grass playing surfaces. And on natural grass, the traction is kind of what you would expect. Very well-rounded, but obviously fairly unexceptional in terms of them not really doing anything new here. In other words, if you like a conical stud pattern, you're really going to like the feel and performance of this one. And then there's the weight, where given that I have painted this picture of a very speed boot-esque upper on the King Ultimate, but a sole plate and stud pattern that feels a little bit more traditional, can it still pass as a speed boot in terms of its overall weight? In a size 9.5 US, you can see that the King Ultimate weighs in at 7.35 ounces, the equivalent of 208 grams, which if we're comparing it to some of the more popular top-end speed boots out there, these do weigh a little more. We're talking about a weight difference between 10 and 20 grams for a pair of boots in the exact same size, which is significant, but at the same time, relatively unimportant depending on how much stock you put in to how much your football boots weigh. In other words, if you want the lightest possible boots, these aren't necessarily it, but if you want your boots to feel light enough, I don't think you're going to have any issues with the weight of the King Ultimate. On feet, I'm really happy with the fit and feel of the King Ultimate. The best comparison I could make in terms of shape and overall fit is that of the original Puma King Platinum. If you had a pair of those, the upper will definitely feel different. It's a little bit firmer, certainly doesn't have the same softness or that slight amount of padding to it, being that it is full synthetic, but the shape is bang on with those, almost exactly the same. And overall, the boots wrap your foot really, really closely. I think this is arguably the best fitting football boot currently on offer from the Puma brand, at least of their three main top end lines. The one thing that I would complain about in regards to this upper is you'll notice here across the top of the foot, the elasticated knit material, there are actually big perforations through the middle that you don't see until it stretches out. So in terms of water management, while the upper won't absorb water, it will seep right through the top of your foot if any water gets in that area, which is almost guaranteed to happen if you are playing in wet weather. Something to be aware of. There's some ventilation benefit there for sure, but they are definitely going to let water in very easily for that particular reason. As far as the overall width and shaping is concerned, they are definitely snug fitting football boots. I would say if you have really wide feet, they're probably not going to be ideal, but in general, if you like that snug feel, more of a speed boot-esque shape, these definitely have that, which again, even though they're Puma Kings, don't let that name fool you. These do not feel old school in any way at all, more than ever when you're talking about this synthetic K Better upper. So from a width perspective, if you like that snug fit and don't have excessively wide feet, these should fit you really nicely. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you are looking to get a pair for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So in conclusion, even though these bear the Puma King name, realistically they're not Puma Kings, in the sense that if you really want something with a leather-like feel against your foot and a leather-like touch on the ball, you would be much better off buying a pair of leather football boots, which means that these should not be at the top of your list. In other words, if you like the feel of leather football boots, buy actual leather football boots. On the other hand, if you're somebody that likes just the opposite, something with a thin feel to the upper, but don't necessarily want something that feels like a pair of socks on your feet, the thin synthetic K Better upper of the King Ultimate, along with the overall fit, along with a very solid sole plate and stud pattern despite being on the traditional side, as well as a lightweight overall package and a $200 retail price that is significantly less than pretty much all the other top-end options out there, there is a lot to like about the new King Ultimate. In other words, they're terrible leather football boots, but they're great synthetic ones.